Ever wish you could just like bottle up courage? Have it on tap for when you need a push.
Right.
Well, today we're diving into something that might be the next best thing.
Oh, is this like a magic potion or something?
Even better. It's Mel Robbins' 5-second rule.
Oh, I've heard of that. And you don't need a cape either, just a little bit of brain power, right?
Exactly. But before we get into it, for anyone who hasn't met Mel Robbins, she's kind of a big name now,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She was a lawyer turned life coach, and her TED Talk is amazing. And we're diving into her book today. She's all about making courage,
Doable, practical, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I find super interesting is how she came up with it. Like, it wasn't from some big research paper. It was from her own life.
Really?
Yeah. Hitting snooze too much, self-doubt, all that.
So she's basically all of us.
Yeah, pretty much.
But she found a way to deal with it, those times we hold ourselves back.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get to it. What is this 5-second rule, and how does it work?
Okay, so imagine this. You have a goal, maybe a dream, even just a chore you've been putting off.
Well, I have a ton of those.
Right. But then that little voice pops up with all the reasons why you can't do it, shouldn't do it, or aren't ready. The 5-second rule is like hitting the mute button on that voice.
Okay.
When you count down from 5, you're basically cutting off that overthinking loop before it even starts.
Wait, hold on. So just by counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I can change my brain.
Exactly. Our brains are hardwired to overthink, especially with new or tough stuff. It's your prefrontal cortex doing its thing, trying to analyze everything.
Oh, right.
But the 5-second rule, it shifts control to a different part, the basal ganglia. This part is all about action, habits, so you're basically telling your brain, stop thinking, just do it.
So I'm like tricking my brain to be more action-focused. I like that.
Yeah. And it even links to creativity and procrastination. Mel Robbins saw this when she was writing her book.
Really?
It took longer than she thought, but those pauses actually helped her have more aha moments. So sometimes a little procrastination, if it's strategic, can actually be good.
That makes sense. I feel like my best ideas come when I'm not even trying to solve a problem. But there's a difference between like good procrastination and bad procrastination, right?
Totally. The key is knowing when those pauses are helpful and when they're just you avoiding something. Avoiding something is the bad kind. It's when you know you have to do something, but you feel guilty, overwhelmed, and you just get stuck.
And that's where the 5-second rule comes in to help.
Yeah, it's your tool to break free. There's a story in the book about this PhD student, Scott, struggling with procrastination. He knew he had to buckle down, but always waited till the last minute.
Oh no, the worst. I've been there.
Right, and that just made him feel even more overwhelmed, like he was doubting himself.
So how did he use the 5-second rule to get better?
He made it his ritual. Every time he felt that resistance, he'd count down from 5 and just start working. Didn't matter if he felt like it or not.
So he used the countdown to go from, oof, I don't want it to, I'm doing this.
Exactly. It's like taking the power away from those feelings and putting yourself back in control.
It's amazing how something so simple can be so powerful.
Right.
It's like that saying, the hardest part is starting.
Yeah, and once you do, you just keep going, right? But the 5-second rule isn't just for procrastination, Think about those times when you get anxious. Like your heart's racing and you just freeze up.
Oh, tell me about it. Like when you're about to give a presentation and your mind goes blank, or you want to talk to someone and you suddenly forget how to speak.
Exactly. In those moments, our bodies are basically flooded with adrenaline, cortisol. It's the fight or flight response taking over.
Right.
Mel realized that if she counted down and just changed her focus, she could actually interrupt that fear response, like take back control.
Okay, but how does counting down actually calm you down?
Well, think about it. When we get anxious, we tend to zero in on how it feels, right? The racing heart, sweaty palms, all that. But that just makes the fear worse.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The 5-second rule, it forces you to shift from those feelings to a mental action.
Okay.
You're basically telling your brain to stop freaking out and start problem solving.
So it's like interrupting that spiral of what-if thoughts.
Exactly. There's this great story Mel tells about using the rule with her son, Quinn. He used to get super anxious about sleepovers.
Wow, poor kid.
Right. She realized that if she had him count down and then focus on something positive, it actually helped him calm down, manage the panic.
It's so interesting how just changing your focus can make such a difference in how you feel. And this reminds me of what Mel says about her fear of flying.
Oh, yeah. She used to be terrified of flying. Every little bump, every noise would totally freak her out.
I can relate to that. Turbulence is not my friend. So how does she get over it?
She started using the 5-second rule to Like, interrupt that fear and replace it with a more positive image in her mind. She'd count down from 5 and then picture herself at her destination, enjoying the trip.
So focusing on the good stuff, not the scary stuff.
Exactly. Creating a mental anchor to ground her in the present moment, you know?
Yeah, instead of being carried away by those anxious thoughts.
Yeah.
That's a really good strategy.
Right. And you can use it for all sorts of things, like a tough conversation at work, going after a dream that scares you, or even just getting out of bed on a Monday morning.
Speaking of starting the day strong, Mel's morning routine is something she talks about in the book. It's pretty inspiring, actually. She wasn't always a morning person, but she figured out that how you start your day really matters.
Oh, totally. And she's very intentional about her routine. It's not just about waking up early. It's about using those first hours to set yourself up for a good day, you know, for your mind and body.
Okay, so tell me, what does a Mel Robbins morning actually look like?
Well, it all starts with the 5-second rule. No snoozing allowed.
No, that's the tough part.
Right. But as soon as her alarm goes off, she counts down from 5 and gets out of bed. No arguing with the snooze button.
No more negotiating. I am so guilty of that.
It's all about breaking those bad habits. Then she heads straight to the bathroom and leaves her phone somewhere else. Like, specifically to avoid scrolling through emails or social media first thing.
That's a good idea. My brain goes into autopilot if I look at my phone first thing. It's like I can't help myself.
Exactly. She talks about how crucial it is to create that separation, to resist those distractions, and give yourself some space to just be present.
So it's about taking back those first moments of your day for yourself before the craziness begins.
Exactly. Then she makes her bed. It might seem small, but it sets the tone.
Yeah, it's that sense of accomplishment, right? Even if it's something small.
Right. You're starting the day with a feeling of order, and then comes her power hour. This is where she invests in herself. Reading, exercising, gratitude, anything that nourishes her mind and body, you know?
I love that idea, power hour. It's like giving yourself a gift before the day runs away with you.
Exactly. And one thing that really struck me was how much she stresses planning your quitting time.
Planning your quitting time. That's an interesting concept.
Right. But think about it. It's about setting a firm boundary between work and personal time, even if you're working from home.
Oh, I see what you mean. So instead of letting work take over everything, you decide when you're done.
Exactly. It's another way that 5-second decision, that little act of courage, can change your whole day.
So it's really about taking control, being intentional with your time and energy, rather than just letting the day happen to you.
And it all begins with that 5-second window.
Powerful stuff.
It's not just about getting things done, though. Mel believes these small acts of courage can impact our relationships, our passions, even how we see ourselves.
It's like our courage can inspire others too, right?
Definitely. And Mel talks about how fear can really mess with our relationships, you know, like being afraid of rejection or judgment.
Yeah, totally.
It stops us from having those tough conversations, the ones that are actually really important, you know, and from really being ourselves.
It's so easy to just avoid those conversations, even when we know we shouldn't.
Exactly. Mel tells this really powerful story about talking to her dad after he was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow. That must have been so hard.
It was. She was scared, but she used the 5-second rule to push through that fear and just be honest with him, tell him how much she loved him, how much she cared.
It's like those tough times, those curveballs life throws at you, they can force you to face your fears.
Absolutely. And it's not just about tough conversations. Mel also says the 5-second rule can help you go after your dreams, even if they seem scary.
Oh, right.
She tells the story about a student named Todd. He was studying law and business to make his parents happy, but what he really loved was physical education.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
Doing what's expected of them, not what they really want.
Right. And he was stuck, miserable, for like 4 years before he finally did something about it.
What happened?
He was in this lecture, Advanced Taxation Law, and it hit him. He was done living a lie.
Wow.
He literally stood up in the middle of class, grabbed his things, and walked out.
That's bold.
Right. He went straight to the registrar's office, dropped out, then drove 2 hours to apply for a physical education degree. He said it was the scariest, but also the best thing he's ever done.
I bet. Sometimes all it takes is that one brave decision, to change everything.
Totally. We often think the risks are bigger than they are and the rewards are smaller. True.
But really, the biggest regret is not doing something at all.
So true. And Mel really emphasizes that courage isn't something you're born with or without, right? It's a skill you can learn.
Exactly. She even talks about this researcher, Brian Little, who studied something called free traits.
True traits.
Yeah, it's basically the difference between parts of your personality that are more fixed and those that are more flexible. Those free traits, you can use them to act out a character to reach your goals, even if it feels weird at first.
So you're not limited by your weaknesses or insecurities because you can choose to act differently.
Exactly.
That's such a good point. And it connects back to this idea that we can all have more courage, be more courageous.
Right. And Mel talks about self-compassion, too. Like,
Mhm.
we're all a work in progress, and mistakes are just part of learning. It's like being kind to yourself even when you mess up and learning from those mistakes.
Exactly. It's about getting better, not being perfect.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the 5-second rule, what are some of the big takeaways for our listeners?
For me, it's about feeling empowered, realizing that we have more control than we think, and that even small acts of courage can make a huge difference. We don't have to wait for some sign or permission to start living the life we want,
I love that.
We have the power right now.
So good. It's about seeing those 5-second chances we get all the time and taking them, even if it's just a small step.
Yes.
You might surprise yourself with what you can do with a little courage and a whole lot of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.